Let's get some insight on this now from Michael Shure. He's a political analyst and joins me live now from Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being with us on the program. Now, this election can go either way at this point. The next 10 to 11 days, it's crucial for both candidates, and it's the undecided voters that they ultimately want to win over. What should they prioritize moving forward?
Well, it is interesting that the basic premise is that you're right, that it is undecided voters that you want to move over. I don't think, though, that that number should be blown up too much. I think what a lot of the people who are involved in both campaigns are trying to do is to make sure that the base gets out and votes. And that is the most important part of this. So for Vice President Harris, she has to make sure that union members who support her in very, very union strong states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, as well as Wisconsin, and union members in Nevada as well, come out to support her and come out to vote. These are people that she doesn't have to persuade, but she has to make sure they have a plan to vote. What Donald Trump has to do is rely not just on his very, very solid and movable base, but make sure that he can energize people that those people know, people in other states. For example, he's going to New York City and speaking on Sunday night in New York. Of course, he's not going to win New York, but by getting out there, he gets his message without having the same money that Vice President Harris has. He gets the same message out around the country. So he's able to mobilize that Republican base, he thinks, and that's what his plan is. There's no right way to run in the last 10 or 11 days of a U.S. presidential election. Many candidates have done it very many different ways, but this is how these two are doing it right now. But you're right in saying that. Getting the undecided voters, of course, important, but getting your base out, even more important than that.
Indeed. You mentioned the swing states, Michigan being an important one. It's one to look out for. And there's a big population, as we know, of Arab voters there who used to be Democrats. And many of them are saying that they're not going to vote Democrat this time around due to their policy for Israel's war on Gaza. Do you think that will be a determining factor at all for the outcome of this election?
I think most certainly it will, because I think these elections are going to be in these states are going to be on the margins. It's going to be very, very small numbers that according to the polling and according to even past performance, that are going to decide Michigan, certainly Pennsylvania, and likely Wisconsin. And when you look at those three states and you look at Pennsylvania and, as you said, Michigan, that has a very significant Arab American population, I do think that it's going to matter. But by the same token, one of the things you said was they may not vote Democratic. The Democrats want to make sure that they don't vote Republican, because that's where they can do the most damage, is if they actually switch from Harris to Trump. And now there's a lot of talk of saying that, actually Donald Trump, Democrats are saying this, Donald Trump is Benjamin Netanyahu's preferred candidate. And they're hoping that that's going to make some hay when they go into places like Michigan. That association is really toxic to so many of those voters there.
When Biden was candidate, many analysts, they believe that Trump was going to ultimately win the White House. That's not the case so much now. How worried should Trump be when we look at the profile of the candidate that he's running against, her being a woman, a person of color? Are these very important factors for the American public to go out and vote Democrat this time around?
Yeah, it'd be an easier question to answer on November 6th, obviously, as so many of them are. But in truth, I think that America has had in Hillary Clinton a woman. The Democrats have run a woman to be president and lost. So it's not as outrageous to have a woman running in the United States for president as the nominee. How she got there was unusual, but that's every candidate has their story. Barack Obama, an African American man, was elected to the presidency. So there is that kind of, you have to get over that hump in a way, but Democrats for their part have gotten over that hump. I think what Donald Trump has to really concentrate on right now is making sure that he's able to connect with the people, like I said earlier, who will come out for him. What Harris has that's an advantage right now are the three states we haven't stopped talking about, which are Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Those are all blue. They're all Democratic states. And if you're a Democratic candidate, you'd think you're going to be able to win those. So Donald Trump is fighting uphill in those states. It is a tighter race than it was when President Biden was the candidate. There's no question. We don't know, of course, what it would have been like now. But I think that most people would agree that the Harris campaign has done something in terms of energy, in terms of closing the enthusiasm gap that the Biden campaign would not have been able to do.
Very interesting stuff. Michael Shure, thank you so much for being with us here on Tier 2 World and sharing that analysis with us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.